What is up, amigos míos? So the past couple months I've actually been learning Unity, and I've pretty much just been following tutorials that kind of take your hand and lead you through the whole way. But it's time to get off the teat and make my own game so I actually learn how to do it. You know what I'm saying? In reality, that is the only way to learn programming. Now there are a couple of things that I love: boats, boobies, and planes. So I made a game about my favorite, planes. Now the first thing that I wanted to do was just to see if I could actually move that bitch forward and not have something stupid happen. But I spent a lot longer than I should have trying to figure this out. But I wrote one line of code and holy shit, it works! After this stunning progress, I continued to fight with it on Linux until I finally said it, and then I went to Windows where everything worked just fine. So then we had to figure out movement, which, if you know anything about planes, every plane, the movement is kind of defined as a pitch, yaw, and roll, which each corresponds to a rotation on a different axis of the plane. And so we had to figure that out. And I also jimmied with the physics a little bit, and it really screwed it up, and my plane wouldn't even move. So this whole process took me much longer. My shit was broken. So then I thought naturally that adding some colors would help. As it shakes out, it didn't. But check it out, when I delete the wings, that little bean starts cruising. Then I wanted to add wings back in, and that shit was still kind of busted, but look at it go. Look at that little piece of shit truck along. Go! And then this got up. We started adding some of that rotation back in. And this was the Frankenstein's monster that occurred. You know, so some subtle bugs, but nothing we couldn't work out. Man, this thing is all sorts of screwed up. What have I done? Alright, back to the little bean. Let's fly this little bean around. So that is progress. That is progress if I've ever seen it. Slow progress, but progress. Oh, look at that little bean just cruising around. You go, bean. So we colored that shit back in. And so now I needed to figure out how the next step was. I had to create a camera that followed my player around while we were moving so that I could actually see what my issues were. So then I Googled that shit, and then I copy and pasted that shit. Thanks. It actually didn't work, so I didn't end up stealing it, but I got the gist and I tried modifying it first. So I tried writing my own little script, and this was the result. It didn't quite go as planned, so we adjusted a couple of the settings, finagled a couple things around, and then we've got this beauty right here. Yeah, buddy, that is movement, and that is following our bean. After this, it was time to ditch the bean, and we ripped a plane straight out of one of Unity's learning packages, and thanks Unity. But as you can tell, the rotation of the camera is still effed up. It's supposed to be swinging around with the plane as it rotates, kind of keeping a view on its ass at all times, and that wasn't really happening, so we had to tweak that script un poquito to figure out to get that right. So after a little bit of tweaking, we got down to this guy right here. And that's not quite right. We're looking at a wheel. So a little bit more tweaking, and we got to this point. And right here, this isn't bad, but for some reason when you watch this, it made me absolutely sick. So if you look at the top of the screen, the camera's actually kind of swinging around when the plane is rotating, and it makes it look like the plane is swinging around. It was a bad thing going on all around. I was not a fan. It made me absolutely sick. Watching this again, it continues to make me want to hurl. So we adjusted it, and it kind of, it does this now. It just rotates with the plane, which also continues to make me sick, but in a less obnoxious way. And then we got back to square one, where we weren't rotating, because I hated that as well, and we fought with this shit for so long. If you would take a look at how fast this bitch is time-lapsing, I spent hours trying to figure out this motherfucking camera. Eventually, I actually went to like a mouse scroll that was controlling the rotation of the plane, and this wasn't atrocious, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. I didn't want to have to worry about rotating myself around the camera at the same time, especially because it was kind of a shitty script. So then we went to Godman Brackies to figure out how to work out some terrain, because I was sick of effing with the camera, and I placed some extremely big penises on my landscape. Look at that. Look at the girth on that thing. And we played with this for quite some time, just trying to figure out how this shit kind of works, and it was a good time. Put some nice little paw prints in the old landscape there for a minute, but we weren't liking the vibe, so we made it bumpy, and I didn't quite like that either. Then we had some fun flying around this thing, and we needed to paint it and make it look all pretty. So then I got a little bit more serious about making this terrain and tried to make it a little bit prettier. Look at the touch on that brush. All right, I got to a point where I made a sweet ass mountain, and it was just time to paint that bitch. Look at the absolute mastery of that brush, the just perfect strokes, the gentleness, the blurring of the landscape, just absolutely immaculate. 10 out of 10. Then it was time to get behind the stick and actually take a look at how this thing looked from the plane, and it kind of looked like dog shit, actually. Whoops. But anyways, it was still kind of fun to actually have something to fly around. I changed it, and we got this, and you know, some harsh seams going on with the colors, but we took out all the textures and just kind of had these flat colors been flying around. And yeah, I still wasn't a big fan, but you know, it was good enough for government work. And this was the finished product. Look at that sexy ass thing. But that, I guess. I don't really know what happened. I got kind of fed up with it, deleted it, and I said, screw it, I'll make it in Blender. But first, I wanted my own plane. So I made my own little plane. It's got this bitchin' little gun to go pew 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 on the side. And we've got some really cool missiles on it as well. I actually thought this thing looked kind of cool. I'm kind of proud of it. But I have noticed a massive problem when flying. We don't have a propeller that spins, so that was step number one. And the first thing that happened was it starts spinning absolutely out of control like this. We fidgeted with it some more, and then it just started spinning even faster. I couldn't quite figure out what axis it was trying to rotate around. Then we got this. That's just busted as shit. And then we got this thing worked out, and it was only spinning at about 10,000 miles an hour. We then fine-tuned that rotation, and look at it, it's just absolutely perfect. I was in love. This was the most substantial progress I'd made on it in about a week, so this was a big win. I was so sick of having that camera screwed up, and it just seriously jumped on my brain like a gosh damn monkey for days until I finally figured it out, and the solution was so stupid. I just made a little cube above the plane, and I parented the camera to the cube if you were curious about the system that I used. And look at that shit. That shit is smooth, okay? It didn't make me sick. The plane could twirl, and it wasn't gonna make me throw up.
Oh, that's that good shit!
So just enjoy this flight. I also wanted to have a crashing animation and explosion, but I haven't quite figured out Unity's particle system either, so for now when you smack into the ground you turn into a cute little cube. Alright boys and girls, ladies and germs, that will do it. That's it for this video. Like and subscribe and have a fantastic day.
Everything turned white. I saw a UFO outside the crib last night. Heard a knock on my window. Figured that it's all in my mind. I felt the air get cold and saw the glow of the lights. Next thing that I know, I'm all alone.